Hello there, this is Chris from Sync Stories, and today's video is going to be all about Tintin. We're going to redraw Tintin, and in this installment, in this particular video here, we're going to concentrate on a panel from the Castafiore Emerald. On page 33, and it's the actual number is A2, so it's the second panel on the first row, and I'm writing this above here on the above the frame, and the reason actually this is going to be an unusual video is that I had some trouble with the recording yesterday with this video that's already recorded actually, but I didn't get the sound with it, so there was a software thing that happened, and so if you want to see the whole video where I demonstrated many things, and mostly sketching Professor Calculus, if you want to see how I actually did that, all the steps, you can go to that video, but it's pretty long, and I would really have liked it to have had the sound there, but okay, so now I'm recording this video as a replacement, and here I will not be drawing what I will not be redrawing what I already did, but I will be explaining most of the important things that I discussed during that other video. But if you want to see it, there's a link below. Okay, but before we start, I just want to have a little announcement, as I usually do here. This is a promotion for my upcoming comic book, 987 Degrees Centigrade, and this is book 1 out of many in the series called Unlimited Danger. So this is season 1 of Unlimited Danger, and in season 1 we have, as you can see here on the back cover, there are 8 books projected here. So this is obviously some kind of spaceship here on this side, and there's also a little green thing flying around here on this cover page, and so it's a science fiction, action, thriller, adventure, and we have the main person here in this on the cover here, which is Barry Riley, the arrogant space captain who lives by his own rules. Alright, so that's just a quick announcement there, and so let's go on and redraw Tintin. And of course this video in itself is just a part of a series, right? So we're going to redraw one panel in full color. We're going to produce it, but there are several steps getting there. So we're sketching one character in this video, and then we are sketching in another character in another video. So today it's Professor Calculus, and I'm just going to talk about that sketch right here and now. So today it's Professor Calculus, and in the next video we'll be sketching Tintin, which is in the same panel, and then we are going to refine those in later videos, and then we're going to actually ink it, and then we're actually going to color it. Alright, so let's see what we have here. So the first thing I did in the video of yesterday was that we made some how should I say, we added the balloons first, and so I'm doing this now here. So I'm adding the balloons just to make us understand how little space we have in this particular instance. So for those of you who couldn't listen to the last video, of course, in that video I said that the whole idea here behind this series of Tintins is that we're going to redraw as nicely as ever possible what Hergé himself did many years ago. But since I do not have the right, I don't have the copyrights, I don't have the legal how should I say, permission to reproduce any of the Tintin panels, I cannot show you the Tintin artwork in this video or in any other video, unless of course Casterman, the publisher, grants me those rights. But otherwise I'm keeping off that whole thing, and I'm just going to explain, I'm going to sketch, I'm going to draw, I'm going to explain how everything sort of hangs together, and I'm going to try to narrate how I think, or how a typical comic book artist would think when it comes to actually designing and composing the panel and actually drawing it and actually changing it or revising it or editing it, or so this includes so many details. It includes like the whole storyboard thing, and how the cameras should be, and where the characters should be, the whole staging kind of thing, where should he be, on the left or on the right or in the middle, and should he look up and should he look down, and so all these matters, and all the sound effects and all the visual effects, motion lines, and all these things. And so we'll try to cover this as in the process of making this panel something to make it as good as we can within the time frame that we have. So anyway, so you won't see any original Tintin arts here, only redrawn or recreated ones. Okay. So now what I did in the last video here, was that I said that I zoomed in here and I explained that the typical arrangement for the balloons is that this white space here in between the actual balloon and the frame border is approximately something like 1.2 or 1.3 thicknesses of this one. Whatever that thickness is, this white here is something like slightly less than 1.5 thickness. And also in terms of the balloon outline here, the balloon border, it's approximately the same thickness as the panel thickness here. So that was one issue here where I was focusing on. And also here, when I drew this balloon here, we said that this is like a half of a square, we could say. So he's indenting it, so to speak, in all the four corners here. and this is not he's not doing it perfectly equally. They are a little different, each and one of them. All right, so that's that. And another thing then we also said is that in terms of the height of the panel, the balloon takes up approximately 60%, something like that, 60% of the height. And I said that originally in the French version here, the area that is covered here, it is there are 8 lines of text. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But then I was just sketching this out. So there actually should have been 8 lines, and the last line should have had its base line along this dotted line I drew there. So we have a little bit more space down here than there is up here. Or I shouldn't say that, but because in French, now I'm looking at it right now here on my left monitor here, and there actually are pretty much equal space here, white. Okay, so sorry about that, but there should be approximately equally, and the space here, of course, is slightly more than the leading here, than the distance between the text lines. So, and that looks good in my book, so to speak. So, however, one could complain a little bit about that the distance to the frame in the left and on the right here is not. It's too close to the balloon border here, I think. But that's just my. So in my own production, when I'm doing the 987 degrees centigrade comic book, I'm having more distance than this. So, okay, anyway, so that's the basic, and the reason for why I'm starting with the balloon like this is that because that is how I always do it. So I think this is a very good principle in terms of how to make comics, is that the only way you can actually really plan out in a detailed fashion what you are going to be able to draw in the panel is if you have to have the balloon first, the exact dimensions of it. If you don't have the exact dimensions of it, then you have to be able to, then you will have to you will have a bad composition, because you're not utilizing the panel at the, you may, I mean, of course you may be lucky, of course, or you know, you can always have a good day when it doesn't matter anyway, and sort of. But in order to actually get in all the text you need, you have to know what your text is first. So in order to have to know the size of the balloon, you first have to know the size of the text. So you have to actually know the exact number of words, and the exact, and not only number of words, but which words is it. So you have your sentences ready, the script must be so good that you will not change it after after you start drawing. So that is only then can you say that, okay, this is the balloon height I need for this panel. So that is the challenge. And another challenge is also that you have to select a certain cutting of the text, if I may express myself a little foolishly. Are you going to hyphenate, for instance? Are you going to hyphenate the text and try to squeeze in as much text as possible, or are you only dealing with complete words that you are not sort of dividing up on 2 lines, but you're always keeping the whole word intact? So those are editorial decisions you have to make before you start doing your panels. So that is sort of like a beginning thing you have to fix during the process of perhaps the first 2, 3, 4 pages. So you get the feeling that, okay, this works, this doesn't work. Okay, I cannot hyphenate, or I must hyphenate, or whatever you decide, but so that you can actually get to the point when the balloon itself is when the dimensions of the balloon itself is solid, settled, and negotiated and done. Now we can really draw the characters and the background and whatever is going in it. All right. So now we have talked about a little bit about the balloon and the text in the balloon. And of course another point I had was that this is far too much text in one balloon. That was one of the points I was iterating, or I was sort of stressing in the last video, that this is just too much text. Maybe half of it or a third of it should be the max. That's what I would do. But okay, so, but I also said, of course, that Hergé, which is a super wonderful illustration artist, his drawings are so magnificent and perfect, so he can basically get away with everything. So I think that's one perspective then, is that if you are as good as Hergé in your drawings, then perhaps you can do it, if you must. But other than that, I think it's a good idea to really think 5 times over before you sort of squeeze in as much text as this. Okay, so let's leave the text. And this is, of course, handwritten text, that is hand lettered. Not this modern lettering which is just typography, but this is hand lettered. So this was really beautiful and has this organic feel of being done on paper, which it actually was, right? So this is the 1960s, 61, 62 or something like that. So, okay. So we have then panel A2 with this balloon, and I haven't drawn out the balloon tail yet, because I thought we could talk about that later. So, but in terms of the distance here, everything should be set to proceed here for the staging of the characters. So in this panel, as we will see in part 1 of this video, where I'm going to talk about the setup, or how the surrounding panels are composed story-wise and in terms of camera movement and like that. So if we're going back to the staging now, I drew this simple disposition here last time, or in the video of yesterday, and here we can see then that we have two characters in the panel. We have the Professor Calculus on the left, and this is, in French, this is Professeur Tournesol, or something like that. And on the right hand side here we have Tintin himself, and these are, basically we can say they are facing each other, but that's not entirely true. We can talk about that later, but this is the sort of setup. And here is also another detail, and there is a hand coming up here, which we're not going to talk about right now, but for those of you who have the album next to you or in the bookshelf, you can easily see this, that there's a hand coming up here, and we are going to wait with visualizing this. And I'm not also visualizing the tail that is coming down here. We'll talk about that later in another video. Alright, so we have the disposition, and after I drew the disposition, I started out drawing calculus. So I zoomed in, something like that, and then I used a brush here, a red brush, and started off like that, which didn't take 2 minutes, but something much longer. I was making many corrections and many refinements along the way, and adjustments here and there. And so what I was saying, so during this video I was expressing the idea that when we're drawing Tintin, this is not just a casual thing. This video is not about drawing Tintin fast or quick or speedy or something like this. This is a video about, as all my other videos, it's about precision and about really trying to coming as close as possible to the original art. So it's not just about coming here and drawing this head here as quickly and like that. It's not about that. It's about measuring things. It's about seeing the distances, to noting the relative width and the relative height of the head and of the ears and of the glasses and the nose and the position. How high is the forehead compared to the hair, for instance? Is that, are we close or are we far off? And how far away is the top of the head here to the hair compared to, and then we can compare it to the thickness of the hair here and to the height of the ear, and on and on and on like that. And so, and where is that? How should he be positioned? Where should this line, when his shoulder here, when it's crossing the panel border, how where is that in the panel? So we have to have a sense of, is this halfway here, or is it like slightly more than half of the panel, or slightly less, or where should we, which size? And this line here, when the forehead sort of and the head sort of crosses the balloon here, how much of this space should be inside here and how much should be outside, and like that. So this area here, how big is it? How high is this, and how long is this, for instance, relative speaking? So if this is one unit here high, then this may be perhaps 3.5 units wide or something like that. And does that fit with the original drawing? Is it like that also there? No, it's not. On and on like that. So then I have to adjust it. And why? It should, and this angle here, the angle of the head, is this the right angle, or does the head go 1 degree more downward here, perhaps? And is this rounded part here, is this soft enough, or is it should it perhaps be a quicker one, or should it be more long, take more time to bend? What is this? What is the diameter of this bending here? Should it be smaller diameter, or should it be bigger diameter, etc., etc.? So all of these considerations when we are looking at. I'm sitting here with the original panel on my left monitor, which of course you are not seeing that, but you can do that on your own monitor as well. That or just looking at the album directly, and to see all these distances, to try to get that beautiful shape that Hergé once drew. That's our objective. Right, so we have now, so this was my first attempt, but then when I did that, I don't know, maybe this took me half an hour to get here, something like that. And then I did something more. Then I figured out that, okay, the width here of the face is too wide, so I have to make it less wide. So I copied one part here, and then this part here, so I'm now soloing it. That's that layer there, face outline, and then I supposedly merged it over here to this one. Right, so from this one to this one. So I used Photoshop's layer technique here to create an intermediate layer, and then I moved it to the left, just to the left. See here, and I could do that, of course, just because I had a white background on my original sketch. So I copied a little white around there, and so it covered parts of the head there, and then I just erased it. Not erased it, but I painted white over it to hide those old lines over here. So that's a very good way of working, so you don't have to actually redraw that line again. I mean, there's enough redrawing all the time anyway, so whenever you can get a shortcut like that, it should be done, I believe. Alright, so then we are here, we have the faces in a better proportion, at least in terms of its width. But then something, what did I do then? Then I changed, what did I do here? Okay, I added the mustache and the mouth, of course. But then, yeah, exactly, but when I did that, when I added the mustache and the mouth, I discovered on the original painting that there cannot, his head must stop here. Alright, so we're back again here with the redrawing Tintin, and we are in part 2, and we have just discovered that we are our previous drawing here, which we made in the first video, it's too high. His head is too high in terms of the distance from the mouth down to the end here. So what we did then was to make some adjustments so that we ended up here. So I moved up, you could say, the whole face, or the whole body, and moved it closer to the mouth. And then what I did was, I'm not sure here what I did, layer 3 is merged, okay, layer 4 then, and then we added the eyebrows and all those details. And what I noted here, which was interesting, was that these lines here, they are very, very close. So normally, as a rule I have myself, is that I almost never go this close in my drawings. If I have a thick line, or if I have any line, the thickness, there must be, I say, normally in most circumstances, enough white in between the lines, and that white cannot be less than the thickness of the line. So here it would be okay, because this white area here is it's thicker. If we understand this as a white line here, if you think of it, the thickness of that white line is thicker than the thickness of these lines here, any of these two red lines. But these lines over here are not like that, so there's a very little white space here on the original drawing, which I'm trying to replicate here. So that was noteworthy, I thought. Alright, so that's that discussion. Then we added the beard here also, and we adjusted the the color here and all that. And then what did we do? We are up here on layer 4 merged, and then I did some adjustments in the color here to get that more smoother, softer, rounder kind of style, because this is an old style shirt he's having. And we are having, and then what we did here is that I added, this was interesting here, because now I suddenly discovered that this distance here to the color here, that this was too big. So I had made some scale adjustments already before, and now because we moved up the collar, right, closer to the mouth, so now this area become larger. So, but in the original Tintin panel, this is not like that. So now I have to adjust that by rescaling the whole picture, including his head, right? So making everything bigger, so that we still have this point up here where the forehead goes into the panel or into the balloon, but then we want to put this point here further down. So we ended up with something like that. And this also fixes the problem we had here, that there was too much of his forehead that was sort of intersected by the balloon frame or the balloon outline. So this more looks like it does in the real panel. See if I have the panel right here. So, okay, yes, good. Okay, so now we are on there, and then I only did one. Oh yeah, and then of course I added these strokes here, or these anger effects, thunder and lightning kind of. And so I made this. I made this not announcement, but I said before that I thought it was perhaps a little too many. So if I would edit this myself, I think I would have taken away this one here. I think 8 of these arrows would suffice more than this would be better than 9, because I think it's a little crowded, but that's just my point. So alright, so well, of course we'll get back to these lines. We'll get back to everything later on when we're trying to perfect it even more. So this is just for now. Alright, so that's the first round, I think, and we did some small, oh, this was just a merge here, right. So we are at this stage then, after the other 2-hour video without sound. We ended here, up here, and in the sketch of calculus. So the next video will be featuring Tintin, and who will end up on the right hand side of this panel here. And then after that we will start refining both of them, and we're also going to talk about the hand here, which introduces some complications. And of course we still have the tail here, the balloon tail, the balloon pointer that we want to talk about. Okay, so that's enough for this time. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.